chapstick before I start the video. Yeah, chapstick. Hey everybody, it's Allie from Padfoot Palms, Poodles and Pals, and today we are going to be going through the entire process from start to finish on how to use the AKC Alt Registry research program so that you might be able to potentially get your dog AKC registered. So let's get right into it. So if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that our most recent addition, breeding prospect crew, is Remedy, who I have pictured here on her little folder. This is where I keep all of her documents and everything, so that I can keep everything organized. And you may remember me talking about in a previous video that we really went out on a limb when we decided to purchase Remedy. And one of the reasons why I say that is because Remedy was CKC registered, or I should say is CKC registered. What is CKC? That is the Continental Kennel Club, not the Canadian Kennel Club. That's completely different. So the rest of the dogs in our breeding program are AKC registered, right? And for those of you who are not familiar with registration and how it works, basically you can take an AKC registered dog and get them CKC registered, but you can't go the other direction, right? Being AKC registered is much more difficult. So I'm going to walk you through the entire process from beginning to end on how we got Remedy AKC registered, because I know that there are going to be a ton of questions, especially from breeders who want to know how they can get their dog AKC registered. So please watch the video from beginning to end, because I'm going to give you a lot of very detailed information so that you can make the best educated choice on if this is a route that you want to go. I want to talk about why we decided to purchase Remedy, because I know that we will get questions on why we decided to do this whole process. And I'm going to keep this section kind of short and sweet. One of the factors that you consider when you're breeding dogs is their color and or pattern. Now, I'm not saying that this is the most important factor to consider, but it is something to consider. So I'm not going to be talking about all of the other factors, right? Health testing, genetic testing, temperament testing, all of those things. Very, very important. The structure of the dog, very important. We're not going to be talking about that today. That'll be for another video. Today, I'm just going to be talking about specifically the decision with Remedy and why I was looking for a dog of her color. So please keep in mind that all of those other factors are very important, but I won't be discussing them today. Remedy is tricolored. Now, this color pattern is becoming very popular very quickly. And what tends to happen when something is on the brink of becoming very popular very quickly is that breeders who are in a position to create those colors or patterns jack up the price. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. It is a smart business move, and it's what tends to happen. So when I say that I have been looking for a tricolored standard poodle from health tested parents, from parents who were genetically tested, right? Dogs that have sound temperament and structure. I mean, I've been looking for at least a year. And the challenge that I'm running into is that there are quite a few breeders who produce this color with those stipulations, but the pricing is way out of my league, right? We're talking $15,000, $20,000. And I'm just not looking to spend that much money on a breeding prospect, right? So it left me with a few options. One of which was to just keep my eyes open, and if I come across a tri-colored poodle, to do some research, maybe potentially get a dog who doesn't come from health tested parents, but who comes from genetically tested parents, and take a risk, right? So that I could bring this color into my program. And that's exactly the thought process that I went through to get Remedy. So, Remedy, her parents were CKC registered, right? Continental Kennel Club. And the dad, I actually recognized from the poodle stud group, and I was able to find him in the stud group, and I was like, I think that this dog is AKC registered. If I remember correctly seeing him pop up in my news feed, I think he's AKC. And I was right. So before I put down a deposit on Remedy, I contacted that breeder who owned the stud, right? Her dad. And I said, hey, I understand that your sire, right, is the dad for this litter, and that he is AKC registered. Would you be willing to provide me with his AKC number so that I can do some research? And the breeder agreed. So she provided me with the AKC registration. She sent me a picture of the stud's registration information. So I then talked it over with Suze, and I said, okay, here are the risks. We may end up with this puppy who we can't get AKC registered. You know, we would have to decide, okay, are we going to resell her at that point? Are we going to keep her and just have, you know, use an outside stud, or have our stud AKC or CKC registered, right? Because remember, you can go the other direction. And she was like, look, the chances of us trying, you know, finding a try that's not $10,000 is slim right now. So why don't we give it a shot and just see how it goes? And I said, okay, I'm willing to take that risk. We put down the deposit on Remedy, right? Obviously, we purchased her. And when we got her home, the very first thing I did was went ahead and processed her CKC application, right, to get her CKC registered. And what I did was I contacted CKC, and they actually have a chat function where you can open like a little chat bubble and talk to them. And I gave them her registration number, and I said, I'm trying to select the pedigree to purchase for this puppy, and I'm wanting to know, if I purchase a 5-generation pedigree, are there any dogs that are going to show up in that pedigree? Now, for reference, for newer buyers or newer breeders, most dogs, when you go to purchase them and you can select a pedigree, it's going to be a 3-generation pedigree, right? That's pretty standard. If you want anything more than that, obviously there's an additional charge, and you may have to go to the registration company directly to request that information. So, like I'm saying, a 5-generation pedigree. So the woman that I was chatting with online, she was very kind, and she said, yes, there are dogs that go back as far as 5th generation. And I said, okay, the reason why I'm asking is because I'm trying to provide this information to AKC to potentially get the dog AKC registered as well. So I asked her, I said, do you feel like the 5-generation goes back far enough and provides enough information that AKC would then be able to use? And she said, yes, absolutely. They're not going to let you see the document, of course, but she said, yes, it's worth it. So I went ahead and purchased that. And then 2 weeks later, it came in. That's when I submitted all of the documentation to AKC. So let's go over that. So I forgot to mention earlier, and I apologize for this, part of the requirements for AKC to admit a dog into their program or their registry is that the dog needs to have at least 3 generations of AKC dogs in their pedigree, right? That's the whole reason why I'm getting the pedigree. Well, I know based on my research that the dad is already AKC, so he's gonna have multiple generations that are AKC. I don't know if it's a requirement that the mom also have AKC in her line, so that's why I'm trying to get right as far as I possibly can back in the pedigree. Okay, so now I've got the CKC papers, I've got the CKC pedigree, I scan in all of my documents, and I email them to the alt registry email address, which of course I'll put up on the screen for you. So I included the 5-generation pedigree, the picture of the dad's AKC papers, the information, everything that I had on the mom, and then I gave a little blurb, right, just talking about how dad's AKC registered. I wrote out all of the numbers in case they needed to copy and paste them to expedite the searching process, right? Remember, anytime you can make somebody else's job easier, you are more likely to get what you want. So take the time to put all of that information together. Dad's registration number, boom. Mom's registration number, boom, right? So you can better assist the person who's helping you. If I had had the dad's pedigree, right? If that had been supplied to me from the breeder, she didn't have it. But if it had been supplied to me by that breeder, I would have included that as well, right? You want to include everything you possibly can to state your case that AKC should register your dog. And then I included some really cute stacked pictures of Remedy, just so they could clearly see that she is a standard poodle, right? I'm not trying to register a jar of Nutella, right? And for more experienced breeders, you'll understand that joke. So, submitted all of my documentation. I received an email back from AKC saying, hey, we received all of your documentation, and just so you know, it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to complete the research process. Now we fast forward 8 weeks later, and I received an email from the AKC stating that Remedy had in fact been accepted. And this is kind of what the email looks like. It basically just says, hey, you know, she's been accepted. Please complete the attached application, which is where you fill in their registered name and all of that. And then of course you want to include some form of payment, and then you can either email it back, fax it back, or actually physically mail it to them. So yeah, so I completed that, the application, sent the payment, and now Remedy is AKC registered. So I imagine in probably about a week or two, we will receive her AKC papers, and she will officially be AKC registered. An important point I forgot to mention here, make sure whatever you list as their CKC registered name is also the name you want for your AKC registered name, because you will not be able to change it. Why would someone want to do this? Well, first of all, AKC is perceived, keyword perceived, to be a much better registry. Therefore, dogs who are AKC registered generally sell for more, right? They are perceived to be higher quality, right? Whether they are or not is subjective. It depends a lot on the breeding pair, of course. So there are a lot of really good reasons why someone with a dog who is registered with another registry would want their dog to be AKC registered. The other thing is, with the alt registry research process, if your dog is approved, You could go on to show them in AKC shows if you so chose, or if you wanted to do any number of AKC sports or things like that. I mean, it is legitimate AKC registry. Remedy's litters will be able to be AKC registered, right? She'll be bred to an AKC stud, and so on and so forth. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is when you pull the pedigree, it's going to be incomplete or partially complete on the side of the mom, right? Because obviously she's CKC, she's not AKC. Dad's side of the pedigree will be complete because he was AKC to begin with. So what are some things that you need to think about if you're considering doing this? There are quite a few things that you need to take into account. Do you know for a fact, and can you get a hold of the parents' AKC information, right? Assuming that you're looking at a very similar situation where you have one parent who is AKC and one parent who is another registry, right? Can you get a hold of that AKC information? If at the very beginning of this process, when I was considering purchasing Remedy, if that breeder said, no, I'm not willing to give you his AKC information, right? Then I wouldn't have purchased her. Because without that information, the entire process would have just, it wouldn't have gotten off the ground, essentially. So you really need to research and do as much as you can before taking this kind of risk, right? So that you can have the best possible outcome. If you have dogs who are CKC registered and you're not sure if they can be AKC registered and you just want to give it a try and send in all of your information, you can absolutely do that. But it is a roll of the dice if you don't know for a fact that there are at least 3 generations of AKC dogs in that pedigree, right? Because they're not going to do it just because. But there are a lot of stud dogs out there who are dual registered. So this is definitely an option for people. The other thing to consider is that while the stud was AKC, right, and has all of that lineage and pedigree to back that up, I don't know how much is required or what the parameters are for the other side of the pedigree, right? Like, I don't know if there's 3 generations per side, or if we just need 3 generations. It doesn't matter where it shows up in the pedigree. They don't give you a lot of information about what exactly it is that they're looking for. And I imagine they do that for a reason, right? But at the same time, you know, I mean, it's worth it. If you're trying to get your dog AKC registered, especially if you can do some of the research on your own, right? Talk to your dog's breeder. Talk to the stud owner that they used. Hey, do you know if any of the dogs in the pedigree of your stud are AKC registered, right? If you have that kind of relationship with them, or you can ask those kind of questions up front, then yeah, you can get a lot of information that can push this process forward. So anyway, we are very excited. It's pretty great. And I just want to say that there were a lot of breeders who discouraged me from doing this process. Many of them had tried to do it with their dogs and were not approved. So I just want to say that if you have an idea or it's something that you're interested in doing with your dogs, then give it a shot, right? Send it in. What's the worst they can say? The worst they can say is no, right? And you might be out the $50, right, for the research fee. It's not the end of the world, but it could be the beginning of something pretty fantastic. And in the case of Remedy, essentially we were able to get our tri-colored poodle puppy that we wanted, but we didn't have to pay $20,000 for her. So pretty excited about that, I'm not gonna lie. That's always a good feeling. And yeah, so we'll just kind of take it from there. So I'm sure that people will have questions. If you do have questions, then please drop them down in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching the entire video. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because I am going to be doing a lot more educational videos like this, and you may find them helpful in the future. If you haven't already, give me a like, right? Hit that thumbs up. And don't forget that all of the affiliate links that I have that can get you discounts on products are down in the description box below. Be sure to check those out, along with the link to our Facebook group if you're looking for a positive community, you know, where you can post questions like this about your dog. So I hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.